Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one and all to Brooklyn, Michigan and Michigan International Raceway for round 4 of the Major League Sim Racing B Open Series. We're so happy you can join us live across the Precision Entertainment networks for this one. It's going to be a fun race to be had. Michigan International Raceway, the 2-mile oval, kind of the last one standing. Auto Club recently torn down in real life. You can still race it in the sim. But Michigan, a big momentum track, a lot of wide passing lanes. My name is Jonathan Burke. Cody Banta is alongside me, and Bradley Cooper is behind the scenes with all the camera work tonight. Cam is sponsored by Whiplash Sim Cams, providing you all angles of the action for tonight's race, and it should be a good one. Let's take a look at the points. Right now, the top 3 are all Spectre Speed cars. Blake Hauschild is currently your points leader. Brandon Hunsinger and Jacob Durman tied. Then it is all Team Ignition. You have Ethan Thompson, Richard Wilson Jr., Adam Ramsey, Chris Etchpierre currently in 7th. James Beard, last week's winner from Iowa, is in 8th. Michael Patrick, the 81, in 9th. And Steve Shannon right on the cut line. Alex Wilkie is the 1 Spectre Speed driver, currently looking outside the chase right now. Gary May and Robert Burke just a few points back. It's going to be thin margins with that cut line. You can see only 2nd place, only 20 points ahead right now. It still can change a lot as the season goes on. And I can welcome Cody Banta into the booth. Cody, like, this is a much different test than Iowa. It's a large track. You're not going to be braking. It's all about keeping the momentum up through the corners to really make hay in the field.
Yeah, and you mentioned that there's going to be a lot of dirty air. There is a lot of width with this track, so we're going to see these drivers maybe even take it 4 wide going into turn 1. It just depends on which teams have the right car, the right stuff, and the right equipment.
Yeah, well said, and I think the start as well is going to be important. You mentioned it getting 4 wide and it getting 3 or 4 wide. You can take a look at the track facts right now. 2 miles, 18-degree banking in the corners, 12 on the front stretch, 5 degrees on the back stretch. 57 years old, does not look a day over 50. The track was designed by the same man who also designed Daytona International Speedway. It's hosted a cup race ever since 1969. Currently not on the O'Reilly Series schedule this year. Justin Allgaier was the last one to win 2 years ago. So let's look at the race. 110 laps, 220 miles around this circuit. You have 4 sets of tires, including the one you start on. And again, that 65% fuel limit means we are guaranteed at least, by the looks of this, Cody, 3 stops, which could be a big strategy talker as we get midway through this race.
Yeah, and we've seen it so far within the first 2 races on how much the fuel range and when these drivers decide to pit and go. So it's going to be interesting to see. I would keep an eye out to see also how these tires wear. It's going to be a long run with this race.
Qualifying is just about to be over. The grid is going to be set. We have 26 cars lining up for round 4 of this race. And we're going to start with the lineup in just one moment. Let's wait for the cars to get on the grid. And here we are. Ethan Thompson is your pole sitter. He had pole as well back in Indianapolis. James Beard, last week's winner, lines up on his outside. Jacob Durbin lines up P3. Bryson Rupe lines up P4, but does have end of the line longest penalty from last week. Chris Cornett and Sean Kaiser share row 3. Michael Patrick and Blake Hochschild share row 4. The 81 also has an EOL penalty, but we need to keep an eye on him. He did win an official race in the O'Reilly Series a few weeks ago. Same strength of field. Zach Dahmer, your A-Series points leader, lines up on the inside of Brandon Huntsinger to round out the top 10.
And moving into the 11th spot here, we go ahead and have the 46 Ford machine of Dustin Coggin, followed by the number 97 and Adam Ramsey. Going into P13 here, we had Jared C. Smith running that 15 airbox Ford machine, along with Robert T. Burke in the 14 spot. P28, or my bad, at P15 we go ahead and have the 28 car of Richard Wilson in that super machine, followed by the 19 of Alex Wicki sitting at 16th. Heading over to 17th, we got the 8 Chevrolet machine of Justin Bell, followed by the 11 Supra, Paul Scruggs. Then we got the number 9B of Mike Elchers sitting just outside the top 18 at 19th, followed by the number the P20 car, Steven Shannon.
21st, Gary May is going to need to make up some places if he wants to make ground on the cut line. In 22nd, Russell Marciniak. You've seen him in the C and A Open Series. He's got a few top 5s already. Corey Powell also making a start in this series. 23rd, Chris Espier, a long way back from where his teammates are in 24th. Dakota Sidris was not with us last week, lines up 25th. And Jordan Zamagdamander came from the back already in his first 2 starts, did not qualify again. So it'll be interesting to see how far that 32 car gets. The pace car is on the backstretch. We're just moments away from getting underway. It's going to be a fascinating race. And the run down to turn 1 especially, that outside lane is going to have a lot of momentum. So it's going to be up, to be urgent on the inside to try and make some moves.
Yeah, and with that outside lane, it's going to be really, really paramount that these drivers go ahead and get a good launch. You want to be close with those restarts. So if you're at the 25 or you're in the 98, you want to go ahead and get pushes from that 20 and those 52 cars.
The pace car is in. Again, glad you're with us all across the Precision Entertainment Network. We are green, green, green. We are a go in Michigan. Thompson's able to secure the lead for now. We do have one slow car. I believe that was Corey Powell in the 13, a bit further back, but Thompson has the lead. They are nearly 3 abreast as they're coming through 3 and 4 now. Looks like the 25 is going to get clear of the 20. Last week's winner holding on to 2nd. Durbin in 3rd, and we're still jockeying for position throughout the field. Trying to find really the best way to make up spots is right now, so you're trying to find a good angle to get some clean air and get some momentum. Beard looking to the outside. Thompson shuts the door on exit, and Beard is in the wall. He's going to be slow off the corner, and the 20 of Durbin's going to take advantage. He's to his inside now in turn 3. An inside lane, the preferred lane, a lot of grip right along that yellow line. 25 looks to be going backwards. Cornett and Kaiser are going to be the next 2 to try and get around him, but the 20 is not able to clear him, however.
Yeah, and now we're just going to see these cars start to line up and help each other in the draft. It's sort of races similar to how Talladega and Daytona races. You want to go ahead and have help with those cars on behind your mirror.
Durbin looked to put the slide job on Beard. Nothing doing there. Cornett was able to get the slide job done on Kaiser. And now Cornette thinks about making it 3 wide, but instead just decides to push the Spectre Speed car into the corner. As these two remain side by side, Thompson is just looking happily in his mirrors, just thankful that he's not the one under attack right at this moment.
Yeah, and exactly how you mentioned it, the 98 of Thompson has been cerebral to start the first 3 races. You know, we mentioned about the point standings and what a big day he can have if he can go ahead and pick up a top 5 here.
In current cam look of Thompson as the second and third place again make a little bit of contact. The 25 nearly into the outside wall, and that's going to open the door for Cornette, who's going to try and power around the outside. Beard is now clear of the 20 of Jacob Durbin, who's trying to look for a good result. Last week, an early restart took out Jacob Durbin. It damaged Ethan Thompson. It damaged a lot of our front runners in the points. So they're looking for a rebound week after being outside the top 10 last week.
Yeah, looking for the rebound. It's been a little bit of a tough going last race. Obviously, it wasn't the outcome for that number 20 machine, but as we go into turn 2.
This is further back in the field on the edge of the top 15. Right now, still side by side. Look at that 46 back end coming out. And this is, I think, one of the keys as this run goes on. It's really hard on these right side tires. Your right rear is going to be screaming for help, and your right front is going to be trying to keep that car out of the wall. So it's going to be paramount, I think, in 15 laps to see how these cars are going.
Yeah, and one thing also to mention is you know, you can run the outside for...
Got trouble in turn 2. House Shield was around. I believe Beard was also around. We're still stacking up. 5-6 cars slow. We scatter to try and stay green. It looks like we do for the moment. Several cars still off the pace. And I believe that started with the 25 getting into maybe the 83 of Cornette as the yellow flag flies for the first time today. We are under caution. So now we'll get a replay of seeing what exactly happened going into turn 1. Sean Kaiser drifted up into Beard. Beard saved it, and then House Shield had a little bit of contact. The 15 gets in on it, and everyone scatters. Woo. We got Rupe going on the outside there. This was just kind of a mess. Not a lot of contact, and there's, I think, what caused the caution is another look at that blue car going around. That is the 8, who already had an EOL penalty, started at the rear of the field. Only got a couple laps in last week at Iowa, so not the start he was hoping for.
Yeah, it just seemed like that number 8 car was picking up spots, you know, just taking advantage of what happened in turn 1 and turn 2. You had a lot of slow drivers on the recovery, and then he just ended up getting loose. And, you know, we talk about the 8 machine. He just wants to set up these nice runs, and, you know, there's nothing wrong with warming up tires, but that's not the right way to do it.
Curious to see what happened to the 9 of Gary May as well, if we get another angle of it, because he has the meatball flag and is currently on pit road. Do have split decisions now as we come down for pit stops. I guess here is the replay. I guess we have some sort of suspension there. Oh, he was one of the victims of this crash. Gets into the side wall, going into 3 after contact with the 8. So he's going to be on pit road for quite some time. Again, split decisions as we came down pit road. Hunsinger, Cornette, Wilkie, Richard Wilson Jr., Steve Shannon. Among those that came down, Thompson stayed out, as does James Beard. So about a 50-50 split here, Cody. Going to be interesting to see if maybe this was just right sides. It looks like it's either just right sides or just topping off right now, trying to make better fuel mileage.
Yeah. And just one thing to mention is those tire sets. You know, there should be enough tires so you sort of have a gimme set that you can go ahead and utilize here. But also, just like I mentioned over in over at Daytona to kick off the race, you want to go ahead and fuel or save as much fuel as you can. So whether that's, you know, sitting back in the pack and drafting, or that's pitting every single time you go at caution. So I like these calls here to get as much fuel as you can.
So a split brings us with a different set of characters towards the front. Zach Domer, who's picked up 6 spots from that, is now in third. Sean Kaiser, who was kind of in the middle of that melee, was the one that kind of triggered it, now in fourth. Adam Ramsey now in the top 5, as we should get 1 to go this time around. No one was a lap down. Our points leader is actually still on pit road, Blake Hauschild. So this could be a big day for points, as his 20-point lead over the rest of the field could be gone.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned it. Just a quick mention as we look at the top 6. You know, they're all within 20 points, and that's from P6 to P12. So a win here could put you in that top 6 conversation. You know, granted, if some of these drivers get wrecked out and stuff like that, but that's how much a win here would do to set up your season.
And now we're going to get ready for the first restart of the day. And again, we mentioned at the start, this is a wide track, but the outside line can get a lot of momentum. Ethan Thompson did a good job on the start, maintaining that lead, but now it's going to be paramount, I think, that he tries to get a good getaway and get in front of the 25 going into 1.
Yeah, and he's going to have some help with those cars, you know. Luckily, Michigan is a track to where if you're leading out in front and you have clean air and you're running the line, you're able to hold your own. You know, it just tells you how much dirty air is a factor at this track.
Dirty air. It's easy to be defensive as well if you can force guys further down the front straightaway along some of that bumpy patch near the white line. It's a good defensive measure. It's also, you need to run in kind of in between the seams. You can't go up and down the seams too often. As the pace car comes in, Thompson will lead them down again to complete lap 10 of 110. Thompson puts the pedal to the metal and is gone already. Zach Domer is now alongside the 25. Can he get clear before they get into turn 1? Nope, they'll stay side by side into 1. Thompson now pulls out several car lengths as Domer slams the door on Beard. Beard not enough momentum to pull back alongside Kaiser, and Ramsey now behind him. Echapar, who started at the rear of the field, now up to 6th place after that cycle of those that came down pit road as we brought on board last week's winner in Iowa. Different colors on this car.
Yeah, different colors, but as you notice his braking point, he broke twice, and that's normally not what we see from these drivers going into, you know, turns 3 and 4 on a lot of these officials. We see some of these drivers go ahead and just trail brake once to go ahead and set the car. So that tells me in the 25 machine that he's trying to conserve as much tire as possible.
Front 5, single file. The first group alongside is Smith, now under attack by Cornette, and he has the 81 of Michael Patrick behind him. Patrick trying to look to the inside, maybe make it 3 wide, and now they're 3 abreast further back behind Dustin Kogan. It's a hornet's nest of some of those guys who came down earlier that were at the front, now trying to pick their way through traffic to get back inside the top 15. Look at this, almost 4 wide going into turn 2.
Yeah, and what this does is, you know, it goes ahead and it brings a lot of these cars back as we ride on board the 20 machine here. You're just seeing how, contact, hard
Spinner,
contact.
the 19 is going around, or has he managed to save it? We say green for now. And that was a good save by the 20 and the 19. We'll get a replay of that in just a moment. Teammates coming together for Spectre Speed. Again, both on top of the standings, and just, I thought he was clear of the 28 of Richard Wilson Jr. and was not. And that's going to knock the toe out. That's going to damage your aero. So 19 may have a lot more damage on there than I think he was hoping for.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that, yeah, that machine looks tore up. I'm surprised that it wasn't as severe, you know. If we go to the caution earlier, it looked like the 19 ended up smacking that wall a lot harder than what that other car went through, so.
So Wilkie will try and tough it out for now. Gary May, by the way, who hit the wall earlier, was still on pit road for quite some time getting repairs. Ethan Thompson is still leading right now over your A-Series points leader of Zach Domer, Beard, Kaiser, Echipar in the top 5, and it's Hornet's Nest behind as Echipar looks to the outside of Kaiser for position. Cornette is on the inside of Ramsey as well. And Smith kind of nowhere to go in that 15. He wants to try and make it 3 wide, doesn't have the momentum. But you see just all the various lines people are running. You can keep as much momentum on that high side, but there's still a lot of grip on the bottom. So there's a lot of different options for you to choose when you're trying to attack and pass a car.
Yeah. As we go ahead and look at the 32 machine of Jordan Mander, and this is what we've seen from him all season. We've seen the comebacks. We've seen him start off slow and get really good runs towards the end, and this isn't surprising so far. He's been a really good top 10 driver so far, in my opinion.
Chris Cornette, also his teammate, got pole last time out in Iowa, finished 6th. That was both of them the Killswitch Motorsports car's best result of the season was in Iowa. It's still a Hornet's Nest behind Zach Domer. We're side by side for 3rd and 4th. Echipar is now ahead into 3rd at the timing line, but I don't know if he's going to be able to clear Beard this time. Beard may still have the momentum. And again, this is just great if you're Ethan Thompson. You're just looking in your rearview mirror, watching everyone kind of by yourself. It looks like he's on a qualifying lap on that shot.
Yeah, and
Trouble, I believe, towards the rear of the field as we have 2 cars. One's up in smoke. That's the 90 machine. We got a replay in just a minute. Steve Shannon took a tow back to the pit lane. So what has happened to Mike Eldridge and Steve Shannon at the rear of the field? The 6 appearing to have connection issues right then and there, but as we go into turn 1, the 90's going to pull down behind and maybe touch that yellow line, or is it the 6 going? Yep, 6 goes deep. There's going to be a heavy hit into the inside wall for both of them.
yeah, just, you know, we talk about that 6 car and that tide machine with Steve Shannon right on the board. It just looks like he either hit a bump or something, or he just overcooked it on the throttle. You know, we talked about earlier the difference of, you know, Beard and how he was able to break down, and you know, that's something we see a lot more in officials. So tough sledding for the 6 car within the first 4 races.
Yeah, Shannon is on the outside looking in to the chase right now. The Massachusetts driver probably done for the day after that hit. We'll see if Eldridge into the 90 is able to continue going, as everyone in the top half of the field is going to be coming down. It looks like for tires and fuel. We'll see if any of those that previously pitted stay out. So Thompson is going to lead them all down. Saw Blake Hochschild stay out, but he is a couple laps down after getting damaged earlier in the race. It's going to be a comeback for him. Thompson hits his marks. We have 3 drivers that did not come down pit road that are on the lead lap: Hunsinger, Durbin, and Wilson Jr. Everyone else in pit road. Looks like it's going to be a change of 4 tires for Thompson. For Beard, we're already losing several spots. You can see the 11 go past. I believe the 32 went past. Chris Cornette was the first one off pit road. Just taking just taking fuel only, it appears, with a 6-second stop. So now we've shuffled the field a lot. It's now going to be your 2nd in points Spectre speed car of Brandon Hunsinger leading him back to the green.
Yeah, and what this does is, you know, it resets the fuel, but now you have a tire difference. I don't think we'll see that much of a drop off within the first 2 laps, but if this run ends up going long, which I'm expecting it to, we're gonna see the number 83 of Chris Cornette sort of peek his way. So it's gonna be interesting to see how these 3 cars handle old tires.
So just looking at pit times, Hunsinger and Durbin took fuel only on that stop. Richard Wilson Jr. did take tires 10 laps ago on the first caution. Cornette and Jordan Mander did not, neither did Paul Scruggs. First guy on new rubber will be your former leader of Ethan Thompson in 7th on that inside. Zach Domer took new tires, as did James Beard. Justin Bell, who started at the rear of the field, I believe only took right side tires. So it's a mixed bag of strategy, which is going to make this interesting. I'm supposed to, apparently I've been told I need to make fun of you for what the hat you're wearing, I think is allegedly the shirt.
Oh, yeah.
What on
That,
earth is that shirt?
So honestly, I do have a fun story to share at Richmond. So I was down at Richmond last year, and you know, just talking with some of the drivers, i.e. Zane Smith, he's actually signed somewhere on this hat. But it was funny when I handed Hocevar this and I said Zane Smith signed it. You know what he did? He didn't do anything. He just signed it right to the 77. So some of these drivers are gonna have to chamber their inner ride the Dente. So it's gonna be interesting to see how these drivers handle Hocevar's home track.
I'm glad I could humor our producer Bradley Cooper for a moment, and I'm glad Cody had a chance to show off the swag as we head back to the action on the track. Again, you saw real life racing going to be happening in Richmond, as we're going to be going back to green in virtual Michigan in just a second. The 18 car of Brandon Hunsinger will have control as we head down. And he gets away a little bit squirrely, though, for several cars. The 28 looks like has spun the tires. He has Jordan Mander all over him, as Cornette is able to get away pretty much by himself. The top three, 1, 2, 3 single file into turn 1.
Yeah, some of the tires are cold, and you know, we just mentioned the worn rubber here as we go into turn 2. That can be an issue of those slow restarts.
I think the 32 lost a lot of momentum coming out of the corner. He's 3 wide now. He's got Beard to his inside. Thompson has cleared them. Justin May in the 8 car a little bit loose, trying to avoid Echepar, a little bit of contact. That top group has to check up, and they're kind of all trying to pick a lane, trying to find somewhere to go. Michael Patrick has to bail out of the outside lane. Now goes behind Dustin Kogan. They're kind of all over the place. Again, with the strategy varying and everyone taking tires or not taking tires, it's caused a big shakeup in the middle of the field. The 22 inside of the Team Ignition car of the 46 as well, a little bit of contact. So now we're going to try and hopefully get a few laps, and Echepar has had a couple adventures already on this restart, probably more than he's wanted, and hopefully can get clear of Kogan. Yes, he can.
Yeah, you know, sadly he wasn't on the feature film of the Jungle Book, but you know, we talk about an adventure, and it's almost reminiscent of how Daytona is, where you see a lot of these drivers in real life pick and choose lanes, or you know, do they want to go too wide and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see. We may see some of these drivers
crash in the background. May has gone around, and it looks like Echepar was in there, and big contact sliding back down the track. That's the 12 of Marciak making his first start. We are now under caution for the 3rd time today. And Marciniak smoke out the rear of the back of that car. First start for the B Series. He's been a regular in the A and the C, as we'll get a replay here of just exactly what happened. Looks like the 8 of Justin Bell washes up the track, gets into the 32 a little bit, thinks he's clear, but the front bumper of Echepar was right there, and this is a big hit for both of them. And then Hochschild got a piece of it again.
Yeah, and there's, as we're right on board here, on board with the 99 of Echepar. Yeah, you just time the run, and you know, it's just one of those things where you have to anticipate it. You know, you may think he's clear in the rear view mirror, but that was just a untimely effort, and unfortunately for the number 8, he rode the Dente, and the Dente bit him here, so it's just bad call. Gotta look out as we watch.
That's gonna take both of those two probably out of this race. That Predator inspired livery, I don't think we'll see the track again. Echipar was also like probably thinking like this can't get any worse. I'm already in the wall, and he gets hit from the side, and it's like no, but that got worse. So during that melee, Thompson managed to get around Hunsinger. So put this down in your notes. Fresh tires definitely matters. And
Yes, it does. And sorry to cut you off there.
Now you're all getting the Team Ignition driver taking full advantage. However, Spectre Speed driver and your points leader, Blake Caulfield, has finished the top 5 every single race so far this season. I don't think that's going to be the day that he'll get 4. He's on pit road again for repairs after getting in that accident.
Yeah, and that's the thing with running at the bottom of the field. You know, you sort of get caught up in other drivers' messes. You may be a talented driver, and, you know, in that exchange, you know, the 54 kind of got out lucky. You know, obviously, that's not what you want, but as a crew chief and as, you know, another Team Spectre driver, I'm just telling Blake Caulfield to hang in there. You know, you'll get a lot of damage fixed here. You'll be able to make up some lap time. So pretty much 2 minutes worth of damage here really isn't that much. You know, it may seem like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, this is why it's a 2-mile track. If it was a short track, it'd be a different conversation, Jonathan.
Well, then think about some of the other calamity that has already happened. And Gary May is still getting repairs, down 17 laps. Team Shannon is likely out of this race. So you have several drivers that are banged up and damaged. You can still get an okay amount of points and try and salvage what you can by getting repairs. Still under caution here at Virtual Michigan. So we get prepared to line up 2 by 2. Ethan Thompson able to take the lead back from Hunsinger on that run while the chaos was happening behind him. And again, this restart, I don't think as critical for Thompson as it normally is because he has that fresher rubber compared to Hunsinger already.
Yeah, and when we talk about the stint, it's that magical number 10. And just something to mention here is now these are on 17 lap tires. So if you're the Hussinger car on 13, you want to get a good lunch. Luckily, I think you're in the prime spot to go ahead and make a move. Maybe send a 3 wide. Keep it interesting here.
Yeah, the other car on that same kind of agenda is Jacob Durbin, but he's on his inside. They're both separated, and they're both they're in each lane. One in the inside, one in the outside. It's going to be interesting to see how they time this. The 83 of Cornette is already, it looks like planning to push Ethan Thompson firm down into turn 1 as we wait for the pace car to go off the track. That left turn down pit road, and Thompson now has control once again. Into the restart zone, Thompson is gone. Hunsinger spun the tires a little bit. Thompson is going to get clear. Cornette is now alongside. Can Cornette get clear coming out of turn 2? Durbin also spun the tires a little bit. Lost a little bit of momentum. James Beard is on his outside looking to pick up places. Hunsinger is going to hold 3rd place for the moment. Zach Domer finds a spot and is able to get 3rd. Hunsinger now back to 4th.
Yeah, we just talked about the late restart, but I want to say what a great launch for that 83 machine and Chris Cornette. He was able to go ahead and stay even with the 98 machine as we ride on board. A little bit of contact between
Dormet and Comer up ahead. Fighting now for 2nd, the 14 machine trying to look to the inside. Beard trying to look to the inside of Hunsinger. Still a little bit chaotic. You know, you think after 3 yellows we can simmer down and find a stretch of green flag racing. That may not be in the cards for tonight as Beard tries to clear Ramsey, unable to do it. Those two are alongside fighting for 5th. So riding on board Cornette, who's looking at Zach Domer. Again, he's leading the points in the A-Series side as Domer powers around the outside. That was a fantastic move to steal 2nd place away.
Yeah, and you know, just something I mentioned last week as we watched the move here on the Major League Sim Racing replay. watch him run this outside line. He's going to have more grit, and that's what we talk about when you set up those passes and how good that outside lane is, especially going into 3 and 4 as he looks to go attack the 98.
So Cornette is now alongside Hunsinger. He lost a lot of momentum on that pass. Ramsey's trying to find a way to break the stalemate he's had with the 18. Beard has a lot of momentum, but he's got Sean Kaiser to his outside, so he has really nowhere to go with it. Kaiser's just trying to find a place to really settle down and get into a rhythm. You can see Durbin and Patrick behind side by side, and Dustin Kogan is currently rounding out the top 10. As up into the side of the 52 goes James Beard. Those two have already had one set of miscues earlier today as we now ride on board, and looking at the VR headset of Beard, he's able to get a nose in front of Patrick, unable to clear. Kaiser now clears Cornette. Ramsey's now up to third. Looks like Cornette struggling for a grip. Beard looks to the inside of the 18, has to push Kogan down to the bottom. They're 3 wide. Patrick is going to be used as a roadblock. Hunsinger really can't do much about this defense. It's still frantic, trying to find places to go as Patrick sails it off into the corner in the 81 to try and stay ahead of James Beard, and it looks like he's going to be able to, as Kogan's now going to go back alongside the outside of Beard.
Yep, and looks like it's going to be Beard that's going to also receive assistance as we ride on the board here and look for the battle on that 83 machine in the 81.
Cornette got tight, had to get out of the throttle. Kogan's going to go around and pick up 6th place as Beard now has momentum and is looking on the 83. We're riding on board behind Sean Kaiser, on board Michael Patrick. He looks to the outside, trying to get some clean air on the nose. I mean, that's the real key, I think, especially as you get towards the front. You're trying to offset yourself and getting clean air on the nose to keep your car planted and to have more momentum going in these corners. Because the dirty air, that aero wash, you lose that front end, it's a whole different race car.
Yeah, it's a whole different race car. You know, we talk about in terms of feel, in terms of how these drivers have to baby it. Like, if you're looking at that number 20 car, you're happy. But if you're looking at that 15 car, you're angry because you're getting fed dirty air between that rear of the 18 car. And all that does is it just throws a counterweight into those cars. So that's why we're trying to see the 15 set up the pass here on the outside, but I don't think he's going to get it.
Smith unable to find a window to try and break into the top 10. Hunsinger is going backwards quickly. Durbin is to his inside. He's able to clear his teammate from Spectre Speed. Right now trying to hold on to position as the 15, Smith going to power around the outside, just able to carry him a lot more momentum, and he'll break into the top 10. It's a good move by the 15. Right now, Thompson still leads by half a second. Ramsey has chased down Domer in the 0-1-4, trying to battle for second at the moment.
Yeah, we just mentioned the tire difference between the 18 and the 15 car as he was able to make that pass was about 10 laps. So now we're starting to see the tires take a factor as we ride on board the 32 machine.
Jordan Mander, again, biggest mover, started at the rear of the field. The second is Adam Ramsey, who's trying for a move on Zach Domer's, unable to get it done. While those two fight for second, all that's doing is allowing Ethan Thompson to get away. The 28 of Wilson trying to break back into the top 10, unable to do so. Let's move back further. Kogan almost into the side of Michael Patrick. Patrick able to stay with the line. Kogan still has momentum. Kaiser's trying to find a way to make it 3 wide. It's a big block by Zach Domer, fighting for second. And they're both, again, both of their fighting is just letting the 98 continuing to get away.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier, you know, what does dirty air do to a car? And in your opinion, Jonathan, how as a driver, how do you attack dirty air, and what is dirty air?
It's that air coming right off the car, and what you're trying to do, especially if you're Ramsey, is this: you find a clean pocket to get air on the nose and get momentum down, because now Ramsey's alongside the 0-1-4 and is not getting that dirty air, so he gets more downforce and can get more control of the car. you're tucked up behind someone, especially at a place like this. They're punching a hole in the air. Down the straightaway, that's helpful. It's getting you more speed. But in these corners, you really need clean air to get that downforce, as now Ramsey's able to hang tough with the 0-1-4. But I mentioned at the start of this broadcast, this is a defensive track as the 81 gets into the wall a little bit. Kogan gets up to 4th. And now Kaiser's looking to try and take advantage as they're still side by side for 2nd. All the while, Ethan Thompson is just out for a nice Thursday night stroll at this point. 1.1 seconds ahead. Down the middle of the track, no issues for the 98. Domer is still relentless, not letting Ramsey clear him for 2nd.
Yeah, and I think you really hit it on the nail on the head with that dirty air. What that's going to do is you're not really going to be able to pass. It's literally just going to be an exchange of back and forth. And what that's going to also do is it's going to bring other drivers into the fight here as we ride on board this machine.
It's on board the 52 of Sean Kaiser as he's kind of looking at the rear of this group. We're looking at the battle from 2nd down to 7th. Domer is now 1.7 behind Ethan Thompson. Last lap by, he was 0.3 slower than the 98 machine. That's how faster the 98 is in clean air, and that's maybe how much this battling with Ramsey has damaged his tires and maybe hurt himself on the long run, as James Beard is just flirting with the outside wall, just sending a few messages, not completely in it. Kaiser's looking for a way to get around, but unable to at this moment, as now we're single file, at least for the time being, and now I think everyone can settle into a rhythm and try and get to the end of the fuel stint.
Yeah, and speaking of that fuel stint, I think we're just right upon the window when we're going to start to see these drivers pit. But one thing to mention is in terms of how much tires you want to burn off, it's going to be interesting to see what these drivers do. I think you have to take fuel. I think you can go ahead and sort of tough it out on these tires. But what would you do, Jonathan?
Talking at 170-degree track temp, it really depends on the percentage on the right side tires, as they're going to be screaming, I think, for help at the end of this. It's a very, you either burn up the right front from being tight, or you burn up the right rear from being loose. As you can see, Kaiser almost into the back of James Beard. He had a lot more momentum going into 1. As those two stay 1 and 2. Domer continues to lead in the battle for 2nd with Ramsey, but now they have a 3rd comer, and that is Dustin Kogan. As to the inside goes last week's winner at Iowa. He's able to clear him on the entrance to the corner, but can he make the slide job work? Yes, he can, as Sean Kaiser now tries to take advantage of Patrick. They're side by side for 2nd again. Ramsey this time on the inside, and maybe he'll get help from the 46. Kogan trying to pick his battles for 2nd as Ramsey slides up ahead of Domer. They're not going to have to check up. Kogan's now going to try and get around him for 4th. Looking at the battle for 5th right now with Beard and Patrick. Patrick pulls in behind Beard for the time being, as now they single file out. So Ramsey, after about 15 laps of trying, has finally put the 0-1-4 in his mirrors. But I think Zach Domer may have other plans, as he got a little tight to the 97 out of that corner. Patrick is going to look to the inside of Beard. Nothing doing on this occasion. As you can see, the battle for 2nd.
Yeah, and just looking at Alex Murray, we talk about, he's on the box for these drivers. So looking at a team owner here, just helping his drivers out.
41 laps complete, 23 done in the stint. Patrick to the inside of Beard, not doing it on this occasion. I believe Ramsey has called it quits on this stint and is going to be in, and so is our leader of Ethan Thompson. So Domer is going to take the lead. The teammates, the 97 and the 98, are now on pit road. So this is going to be interesting. They were only at about 24 laps since the pit stop. So we'll wait and see how this cycle out.
Yeah, we mentioned, the pit times are a little bit different from the next gen. The next gen received an update, and, I think some of these drivers may end up taking rights, as never mind, we see the 98 go ahead and take less, but this is a team decision. So we mentioned earlier about how these drivers can team up and stuff like that, but they were both on the same page, and I agree with this call. I like this call here.
I think they were hoping that Echipar and Richard Wilson would come down with them, but Echipar has already had damage, and Richard Wilson's a bit further back in the pack, as now the 81 is coming down pit road. He was in the top 5 as well. Domer and Kogan continue to circle 1 and 2. Beard and Kaiser also stay out. Only a handful of drivers taking the chance to early pit. They're going to try and undercut some of the other cars around them. Use that fresh rubber to get some clean laps in clean air. Ooh, and as you see, the 11 just went a little bit long in the box, and that's going to cost him a couple seconds.
Yep, and sort of similar to how Daytona is those couple of seconds can be a difference between 2 to 3 spots. Luckily he's able to undercut it, so I don't think it's going to be that drastic of a change. But if you're one of these other drivers on these longer stints, that's not what you want to do. So to watch the battle for P1 here.
Kogan and Domer still circling around the track. I believe that is the 97 right behind them that is just out on fresh tires. So you get to see a difference, I think, coming off the corner as Ramsey's able to just hold a lot more momentum coming off the corner. And this is going to be a bit of a tricky spot for him. He wants to unlap himself in case a caution comes out. He'll cycle back to the front. But Kogan and Domer have reason to hold him up, and I don't think there's going to be actually much of a fight. There goes Ramsey around 1. He's going to look to the outside of Domer. Domer does give him the space, and this should be an easy way to get your lap back for the 97.
Yeah, and now what this does is now it throws him on even playing field. So if this 14 decides to pit here, we may see Ramsey back on that lead spot. But if I'm that 14 car, that's just one person lapping me. I still got a whole entire field. So if I can save as much fuel as I can, get some more reps, it's interesting to see how these drivers attack it.
That's one thing, too, with the length of the race and the fuel set, is that we could have 3 stops, but because we had that early rash of yellow, it could just be 2 more stops to the end. I think they're trying to math it out to make sure it's just 2 more stops to the end, as now we see really the 2-car of Rupe on pit road. He was up in 5th position as he will now get tires and fuel. Domer continues to lead and circulate around. There's a couple guys still behind them as well. Hunsinger, who already pitted, a lap down now. Kogan still hasn't pitted. James Beard still hasn't pitted. Yeah, but these are 2 guys on fresh rubber, and again, you just see the difference. They're able to just hold a lot more speed through the center part of the corner.
As we mentioned, we have 10 cars on the track, and Echipar, the last car on that run, dealing with damage and stuff like that. He's up to P10 now, so a lot of these drivers may be even banking for a caution, Jonathan. If you're these cars on the older stint, what do you tell them if you're the crew chief?
I think you're going to have run it out of fuel as fast as you can, as Beard and Cornette call it quits. They're in pit road, as is Jordan Mander. So those 2 now down pit road. Domer and Kogan continue to circle around, as does Kaiser, as does Richard Wilson Jr., who I believe has a bit more life in his tires and a bit more fuel in that 28. So he may be the last one down. Blake Hauschild also may be the last one down, as he pitted under that last caution and topped off right before we went back to green. As here comes your leader in. It's a tricky pit road. Kogan almost gets into the rear, but slows it up just in time. I have to watch to make sure that 014 did not get a speeding penalty, as that was kind of close.
Yeah, kind of close and perfect. That's exactly what you want for the pit speed. And, we just talk about the experience in Domer. This just comes from running Cup and just being able to go ahead and have a lot of experience on that sim.
So now up front is 2 Team Ignition cars and a Spectre Speed car that topped off at the end of the stint. This is Richard Wilson Jr. He's got about 5 laps left before he'll have to come down. He's currently leading. Your points leader in Blake Hauschild in the 54 is about 12 seconds behind, damaged in 2 of the 3 cautions so far, and is hoping for a caution. The Starburst-inspired precision livery for the 54. Nechipar as well, trying to stay out and get to the end. Thompson has just gotten around him. Thompson will maintain the lead and looks like grow it by about 6 seconds over Ramsey. Hunsinger and Durbin have been able to get around Domer on this cycle of pit stops, so Domer is going to cycle out P5 after fighting for P2, but he's got a little bit fresher tires now, so he should make his life a little bit easier as we go through the stint.
Yeah, and you know, we talk about the difference between a 5 gap and a 10 gap margin, but you also have to notice, you know, as we ride on view here with the 20 machine, you know, just for reference, that number 20 machine is on 9-lap tires compared to Zach Domer, so there's going to be a lot more passing, but also the gap difference, you know, it's going to take a little bit of time. So while the 20 machine of Jacob Durbin, you know, is running up his stuff, we're going to see the 014 of Zach Domer also struggle to get to him.
Now, an interesting thing here is that we're not able to really get, it looks like, to lap 30. So I think we're going to have 2 more stops before the end of this thing. Hauschild has called it quits. Wilson is still circulating, the last driver to need to make a pit stop. He is now slow down the back straightaway, kind of all by himself. He's further back. The 98 will resume leading out in front. He's got 5.5 seconds in front of Adam Ramsey. There's Hauschild that comes out of the pits now behind your race leader. So look at Zach Domer. He will come out in P5, fastest lap of the race, last time by. And he does have the 2 Spectre Speed cars in front of him that were behind him at the stop. But again, the fresher rubber should help him track those 2 down before the next cycle of start.
Yeah, and now he's able to go ahead and stick on the bottom, and that's the preferred line on this track. If you were to ask any driver on what series in terms of lines that we run, as we look at the number 28 here exiting, as now we go to the 98 machine, is Zach Thompson.
Ethan Thompson resumes the lead. That's Richard Wilson Jr.'s pit stop done. Doing the math, he might be trying to do it on 1 more stop. If he can get 29 laps again, he'll have 29 to go to the end. So he might be trying for 1 more stop. How much that could benefit him is yet to be seen, as Domer has gotten around Durbin and is going to make quick work, actually, of Hunsinger. There's about an 8-lap difference between when these 2 stopped. So Domer is going to go immediately back to 3rd place and back to trying to hunt down Adam Ramsey, but Ramsey has now a 3.5 second gap over this gaggle of 3.
Yeah, and you know, now these battles for positions start to become localized, because now you're, you know, as much as you would want to be, you know, top 5, top 10 and stuff like that, you got to worry about passing the car in front of you. So as we see the battle here going into turn 3 of the 81, he just looks like he got a little bit too tight there, Jonathan.
Yeah, lost a lot of momentum trying to get around Rupe in the 2. That's the 15 of Smith, not far behind. As Kogan now gets around Durbin, you can see the difference in stopping early. You get that track position, but on a track like this that's multi-groove and so wide as we, the 83s down to the inside. I believe Kaiser and Cornette had contact. It's a brilliant save from Chris Cornette, but now he's several seconds behind Sean Kaiser. It's not the first time the 52 has had someone in his rear quarter panel today, and that was a, woo. I wasn't expecting Kaiser to come down there with an ill-handling race car.
As we go ahead and watch the view here of the 83, you know, it just looks like looks like the 52 just got loose. You could see that front end of the car sort of point in on that 83, and just what a save from that 83 machine.
Yeah, this is on board Cornet. You can kind of see, he's kind of in the blind spot is Kaiser. So you're looking, thinking he's going to the wall, and hello. And the wheel left, right, working the throttle, able to keep it going and not really burn up the tires too, because that's something you can easily do with a spin or a big save like that, is burn up the rubber. So the 83 will keep on chucking along. Now down in 9th position, Kaiser remains in 8th. Both of them lost some time to the two Spectre Speed boys ahead of him. Kaiser's actually going to get around Hunsinger, or Durbin, excuse me, going into turn 3. And this decision to early stop for Spectre Speed may be coming back to bite them here middle of the stint.
Yeah, and you know, if for that 52 machine, as we ride on board here with him, you know, this is a great call. I like it when drivers go ahead and stay out longer, because what that does is, you know, barring any caution here, see him just brake a little and get on throttle. You know, we see these runs that he gets in the long run. So I think it's a good call here by that 52 machine.
It just has more grip. That center of the corner, you can see really the difference. Watch the 18, especially the right rear. It wants to kick out. It doesn't want to stay planted, and Kaiser's able to power around the outside. Looks like he's going to clear the 18, move Sean Kaiser up into 6th. As Hunsinger and Durbin continue to go a bit further back in the field. Again, a couple more laps on their stint than others around them. Speaking of which, Domer, I believe, has caught Ramsey, and Domer is going to make quick work of the 97. After that 15-lap battle earlier in the race, this one is going to be a little bit more trivial, as the 014 is now into 2nd. He is the fastest car on track. Last lap for Ethan Thompson was a 41.2. So the 98 already struggling for wear, as the 014 crosses the line, 40.7, 4/10 on that last lap alone. It shows now the tire life is really becoming an issue.
Yeah, and you know, if you're the 98, you certainly don't want to sacrifice as much speed as you can, but you also want to preserve the tires. You know, you're 5 seconds back, but you know, you can sort of save here as we watch the battle here for second. Just Domer just able to drive away from the 97. It just shows you how much the tires are paying off here.
Echipar going behind 2nd place, again damaged after that 2nd caution. I believe that's the 22 machine of Robert Burke that is also going a lap down. They're both fighting actually for the free pass position if we do get a caution. So that's an important battle to keep in mind, as now Ramsey has caught the rear of them, and here comes Dustin Kogan. He made his first start, the 46 did last week, and is looking to impress again as he goes to the inside of Ramsey. Doesn't look like there's much Ramsey can do about this one. There's a 7-lap difference between tires, and the 46 is going to try and sail on by, but has difficulty with the lap traffic. I didn't think lap traffic would become much of a factor here at Michigan, but here it is.
Yeah, and this is when you see, you know, the dominoes fall and an earthquake ends up happening, and it shakes up everything. You know, a lot of these drivers decided to go early, but, you know, it shows you the difference between 7 laps and even 3-lap stints. You know, every percent matters, especially when we're talking about the iRacing tire model here, Jonathan.
And again, especially with the track temp, it is coming down all the time. We're now at 105 degrees. The air temp, a very nice 79 degrees Fahrenheit. The virtual fans must be having a great day outside right now. A little humid, but nothing too bad, as Kogan is now going to try to get to the inside of Echipar, who's had issues. Thompson has pulled it in, only 20 laps into the stint. You can do it on one more stop from here. I believe that has to be the game plan. If you are Ethan Thompson, Cornette comes down, Jordan Mander now comes down. So now they're looking to try and space out these stops to maximize their tire life.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to be a 2-stop call for the 32, or maybe even a one stop. It just depends. You know, maybe he doesn't have enough grip in his car. So I think this is the adjustment stop as long as he gets to fuel here. But this is sort of an interesting lap to go, considering, you know, some of these cars have 25 to 30 laps worth of fuel.
I think what he saw and what he was worried about was Domer still coming at a rate of knots behind him. Domer's been under the 41 second mark for much of the time he's been racing, and now 41 seconds was where the 98 car was running the past few laps. So maybe it is a tire strategy as the 98 remains on the lead lap. That's going to be key, because if a caution comes out, he'll cycle back to the front. You're watching our leader, Zach Domer, have Dustin Kogan all in his rearview mirror. They both pitted at the same time, so tire life is identical. As the 83 looks underneath, he is not on the lead lap. He also came down just a moment ago.
As we watch this backboard view of Domer here entering the turn 3, you know, if you're that 14 machine, 83 just loses it.
Snap. Got too close to the yellow line, and the 83 brushes the wall as well. Cornette was trying to find a way to get his lap back without interfering in the lead battle, and ends up almost tagging the 46 of Kogan. As you can see, just a little, just steps out on him, he catches it. And then once you cross a lot of these seams, you just kind of lose control, and it's hard to regain that grip.
Yeah, and one thing that we haven't mentioned here is the bumps off of 3 and 4. You know, you can run all the way at the bottom, but in that transition point, like right along here, especially right there, that's when we see the car unsettle here as we ride it on board view in the 014 machine.
Kogan is trying to look for a way to take the lead. The 83 is trying to look for a way to get his lap back, and Zach Domer would wish both of them would get smaller in his rearview mirror. Unfortunately, that is not happening right now for the 014, as the 83 of Cornette does manage to get around Domer. Nope, not able to clear him. And now Kogan's going to try and use this to his advantage, maybe push the 83 around and go with him to take the lead.
Yeah, why not? You know, I certainly think this is a way to pass, but as soon as that 83 lifts, he's going to start being able to draft. So now Dustin Kogan's going to be able to be even here with him heading into turn 1.
Side by side for the lead, Domer and Kogan. Domer has preferred the high line. Kogan sails it in deep into turn 1. Is going to try for a slide job. Is able to clear Zach Domer, but Domer has a lot more momentum coming off of 2. He's going to look back to the inside. The West Virginia native now side by side again with the 46. They're about 3 seconds clear of Ramsey, so there's no worry in anyone else getting involved in this fight. Kogan tries to hold the high side this time. Domer to the bottom. They're still side by side, unable to really gain momentum on each other. Domer may lift a little bit and slot in behind. No, he decides to stay to the inside and continue fighting. The 46 going to use that momentum of the high side to clear, as we have takers again on pit road. Here come the Spectre Speed boys, Hunsinger and Durbin, now down for their stops. Adam Ramsey as well came down, so he's going to try and undercut Domer and Kogan and see if he can stay in front of them for longer, as Kogan and Domer still have about 10 laps of fuel remaining.
Yeah, and you know, this is, I think this is a decent call by these 3 cars here. You know, this was, you know, on their sheet. This was on their sheet. This is a marked stop that these teams have put together. Obviously, it increased by 10 laps, but right on board here with the 25 machine, they're right where they want to be on that pit exit. You know, they're only a lap down, and they're going to make that lap back, and now they only have to battle the 32, who pitted extremely early, so it's going to be interesting to see battle for 4th here.
So if they can try and stretch this 10 laps to get to lap 80, they could make it on one more stop, which may be the goal of those that are still circulating around the track. Some of them have pitted earlier than others. Notably, Jared Smith pitted 24 laps ago, and same with Bryson Rupe. But now, as you ride on board with James Beard trying to get third from Kaiser, as Smith calls it quits. Again, the difference in grip as Jordan Mander has to back out of it, forces Beard way to the bottom. And Mander's just trying to run his own race and maybe stay in front of Ramsey, who is on the same lap as him, as here comes the 97 into the battle. Again, not for position with the 52 and the 25, but he is for position with Mander. That would be the first car one lap down as the 81 goes around, the 20 goes around. We were 4 wide for some reason. Everyone has decided we have to go. Goodbye, Sean Kaiser. Goodbye, James Beard. We have to run our own race. I don't think there was much these two could do, but just kind of hold their line and hope they don't get run over.
Yeah, the 52 just lost it a little bit, so we're starting to see these tires wear, and we're starting to see, you know, these other cars with better tires just be able to drive it through the corner a lot more. So just one thing to mention here is the battle between the 32 machine and the 97 of Ramsey is for a lucky dog, just in case anything goes haywire.
Durbin and Patrick have both gotten around Jordan Mander. You can see Patrick on your screen now in the 81 ignition machine, able to clear the 32. Again, Ramsey holds that lucky dog position. Kaiser calls it quits, comes to the pits. Rupe calls it quits, also in the pits. Kogan, Domer, Beard, and Wilson continue on. Again, and I'm going to circle Richard Wilson Jr. here for a second because he was the last one on pit last time. He's got about 10 laps before he needs to pit. He can do it on one more stop. So the 28 may be in a very good strategic position compared to some of those around him. And you can see 2 seconds behind is the car who started this round of pit stops, and your former leader of Ethan Thompson. He's already 10 laps into the stint.
Yeah, and just for reference, as we ride on board here with the 28 machine, you know, he's on a 20 lap stint, but you know, the earlier you go, the easier you can cut it in half. And now it's going to be interesting to see, Jonathan, you know, as a crew chief, you know, are you telling your driver to go at lap 90, or are you trying to tell your driver to go as late as possible? But as soon as those lap counts, that lap total starts to count down, it's going to be harder to make up time here.
Wilson in fourth. Again, Thompson behind. Thompson closes the gap significantly with that fresh rubber and will reclaim the position. James Beard has pulled it into pit road. I think he's going to need another stop to try and make it to the end in the 25. So Thompson's now into the top 3. Domer and Kogan still circulating right now, as is Wilson, as the field kind of spread out at the moment. We're still midway through this cycle of pit stops. So here comes Beard pulling back out onto the track behind Sean Kaiser and Echepar, who I believe is also not pitted, still not pitted. It's the 99 trying to gain some track position by staying out later. And actually, again, is on the same lap strategy, at least as with Wilson, so he may be able to skip a stop if need be. The stop timing is so interesting just between all these drivers, as Kogan now comes to the pits.
Indeed, interesting it is. And you know, we just mentioned, you know, that 99 machine of Etchpair is sitting 12th at points, and we talked about earlier about the point margin. So you're trying to maintain as much track position. You know, it's almost a desperate cry. Not really desperate in the sense of, you know, this is where I want to run and stuff like, but desperate in terms of picking up track position and stuff like that and setting yourself up, Jonathan. So in your opinion, who has had the best choice so far? Do you like these drivers pitting in now, or do you like the other drivers pitting out late?
Well, I think for Domer and those that are pitting very close to this margin, they're going to be praying for a caution because then you're not going to be able to split the run in half. It's going to be inefficient. I like where the 28 and the 99 are in terms of fuel mileage because they can go another 3 or 4 laps here and try and stretch it out. The other drivers have kind of divided the stint so far. As a compliment from the Twitter feed, you guys are beautiful. Hope you're having a good night. And we thank you too, ALAO343.
Great compliment, as I'm wearing that 77, so I have a feeling it has to do with my 77 hat and riding the Dente here in Michigan.
Is that adding like a plus 2 or 3 points of attractiveness? Is that where we're going with there?
Unlimited amount of points here.
As you see Domer come out of the pits again, it's going to be close on fuel for a lot of these guys. As he's going to cycle out now in 12th position. There's still a few guys circulating that have not been down pit road. Richard Wilson being one of them, as Ethan Thompson has once again grabbed the lead, and he has a bigger lead over Chris Cornett. Cornett, I don't know how in the cycle of stops, managed to jump Adam Ramsey to get all the way to second, so well done to the 83 to be second on the strategy, third on the road. Durbin and Hunsinger were the first few cars to trigger that first set of stops. They were kind of down midway through. They have about 10 laps on their tires. So this has been an interesting day. As you can see, the 18 and the 46. Kogan on fresh rubber, and you see the difference coming out of the corner. Easily able to get Hunsinger. And now the difference is going to be those that have to come back down pit road for tires and fuel again, and those that may be praying to try and make it to the end.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we see one of these two cars, heading into the last final 5 laps, if it stays green, run out of gas. But what this also does is, with these cars on different sets of tires, is we may see, racing between some of these older tire and new tire cars. So we may see a little bit more of a competitiveness once we go into the final run here. But I think we're going to start to see some of these other cars, like the 28 machine, as we ride on board the 52 here, stay out a little bit longer, because he's been out almost 30 laps.
I actually looked at the times and realized Chris Cornett didn't take a full fuel pit stop last time around. It may have just been right sides only, as finally Richard Wilson Jr. comes in, and he'll have 28 laps to get to the end, which is about the limit of where we can see cars go. So can he stretch it to the end, as Thompson will has already been in the lead. Cornett moves up into second, Ramsey back into third. Kogan, who was fighting with Domer, interesting gaggle there, has kind of split up. Domer 14 seconds in the box, Kogan 14 seconds. I think the in and out laps made a huge difference for those two drivers.
Yeah, and just one thing to mention, that when you're coming into pit road is there's a little technique that I like to do when I'm racing, or higher gear that you're in these cars, the less fuel that you can consume, because you're putting the engine at a lower RPM limit. As we ride on board here, Zach Domer here, and we'll look at the battle between him and the 32 machine.
This is to get back into the top 10. Domer moves back into 10th. As he's got, again, fresh rubber. I don't think he's going to be able to make it to the end. He might be a few laps short. You're looking at Jalen Ramsey right now, who's in 4th. Justin Kogan. Both trying to navigate lap traffic. That 31 machine, don't be confused by that one. That is Dakota Siders. There is not a 31 listed in the session. She's running at the 64 machine. Don't get confused by that one. That car is also a lap down. I believe Cornett, again, taking right side tires. His tires are struggling for grip, because he's about to be caught by the 46 of Kogan. As they're 3 wide going down the back straightaway, Dustin Kogan's going to go to the inside of the 83 machine and wave goodbye to Cornette. Kogan now moves up into second.
Yeah, and just for a quick maths here, you know, these are 15 lap ran tires, so these are used tires. Hogan was one of the earlier cars on that strategy, as now we see the 97 take his final stop here. I like this call. You know, take your lumps when you can, but now you're going to go ahead and put 4 tires on it, use the last set, and hammer down.
Yeah, I think those that know they're not going to be able to make it to the end may want to come down earlier, make the most out of the fresh tires as you can. As Ramsey gets service and will be back on his way. He's been coming down with some of his teammates, like Ethan Thompson. We haven't seen the 98 come down for his final stop. He's got a lot of time to make a decision, though. He's got nearly 10 seconds in front of Dustin Kogan and Chris Cornette. As we look back through the field, Sean Kaiser under attack again from the 81 machine of Michael Patrick. Patrick is trying to look for a way around, goes up high to get some clean air, now tucks in behind Kaiser for the draft.
As we just see the timeline, as the 81, great move on the outside, he's going to have enough grip to go ahead and drive it in, as he's going to go ahead and start looking for 5th place here, as we see some of these cars start to go in on their final stop.
Thompson is in, Kogan is in, James Beard is in, Sean Kaiser is in. This is the money stop. One final stop to get you to the end of the race. A fresh set of boots for the 98 as well. Everyone's going to be taking their final set of tires and fuel. Try and make it to the end. So Thompson's going to cycle out. Looks like a little bit further down the order, still in the top 10, as he had a lot of cars that came with him. And now we're going to keep in mind those that pitted late, like your Domer. How long will they go before they hit? And can this 28 machine that you see on screen make it to the end on fuel?
I'm just looking at my math here. Looks like he pit at around 10 laps ago. So if we're doing the math correctly, we have about 25 laps left. I think it's going to be too close to call. I think he's sitting right there, just around 103, 105, the earliest. But if he ends up getting in caution, then yeah, I think that gamble's going to pay off, Jonathan.
As Durbin and Hunsinger now take the lead, 20 laps on that stint. They're not going to be able to make it to the end. James Beard, you see behind them right now, did pit already. So these two Spectre Speed machines are going to be back down on pit road, as Beard, with a full head of steam, might try and split the two teammates. Just thinks better of it. Knows that they're going to be coming down any moment now. May just decide to take his time getting his lap back. There goes the 25, there goes the 18 and the 20. It's a little bit of a kerfuffle on the front stretch just ahead of these guys. Ramsey was trying to get around Sean Kaiser. And I believe the 64 or 31 on your screen, lap traffic getting in the way and becoming a factor here as we get out of turn 4. You can see these two are fighting for position, I believe. The 19 and the 31. The 52 and the 97 are also fighting for position, but they're not on the same lap, as Ramsey had to get way out of the gas.
Yeah. I think you hit it right on the head. The 31 car was just struggling, and we almost had a momentum changer. Luckily, all 4 of these drivers got out, but if you're that 97 car, you know, you may tell the 19, hey man, just tone it down a little bit. I know you're jockeying for a position here with the 31, as we see the number 20 go on straight, going into around 19 as he enters pit lane here.
Sean Kaiser would like to be done with Michigan. The amount of times he has had a car in his rear quarter panel or on his side door and someone's gotten loose tonight is... It's been more than it should be. It's been about 4 or 5 times for the 52, so I think he would like to get out of Michigan and go to the next round without any more incidents. You can see Cornette right behind him. Hunsinger continues to circle. He still needs to make one final stop. Zach Domer already came down about 14 laps to go. We do not think he can make it to the end. It's going to be tight for that 0-1-4. The 11 has come down. You can see this is our points leader, the 54 of House Shield, right behind Zach Domer, who's currently circulating in second. And this is going to be I think, a big blow, unfortunately, for the Arizona Spectre Speed driver, because 14th isn't terrible right now, but we do think the 54 might have to come back down pit road at some point. This could send him much further down in the standings than he wants to be.
Yeah, much further down. I think he's just going to be around 2 or 3 laps short. But he also has that buffer. If we take a look at the standings here, just for reference, in the B series, he's up about 26 points. So he has a little bit of a buffer. Is he going to pick up a top 15? Yes, so it's going to help the cushion a little bit. But if we compare him between your race leader, Brandon Hussinger, at the win, essentially, we may see Brandon go ahead and take the lead spot here at the end of the series.
I think I'd be more worried about the Team Ignition drivers that are 4th through 7th in the points, all of them having pretty solid days out on the track. So Hoshio got involved in those 2 early cautions. 17 laps to go here. Brandon Hunsinger is still your race leader. He does have to come down pit road. Zach Domer, we don't think can make it to the end, is currently 2nd. Ethan Thompson has made that final stop and is currently 14 seconds out in front. I'd like to remind you that this series is presented by Ideal Family LLC. It's the parent company uniting a diverse group of businesses under one trusted brand, built on integrity, professionalism, and a commitment to excellence. Ideal Family LLC provides high-quality services across multiple industries while maintaining the same customer-first approach in everything it does. Family of companies includes Ideal Pest Management LLC, so residential and commercial pest management, wildlife control, Ideal Construction and Renovation LLC, quality construction, remodeling, and property renovation, Ideal Canine Training LLC, professional dog training on obedience, behavior, and confidence, and Ideal Auto Detail LLC, interior and exterior detailing to keep vehicles looking at their best, as well as Ideal Racing, their motorsports division, which has 2 drivers in the field tonight, representing the Ideal brand through competitive sim racing, teamwork, and community involvement. At Ideal Family LLC, our mission is to deliver dependable, professional service while building lasting relationships with our customers and communities. No matter which division you work with, you can expect the same dedication to quality, honesty, customer satisfaction that defines the Ideal name. The Ideal Racing, the 92 of Corey Powell and the 64 are the United Deciders. A bit further down in the order, the 23 of Howard Peoples, unfortunately suspended for this race. So I think they're going to hope for Richmond for a better weekend out for the Ideal Racing team. As Rupe calls it quits on his stint, he will come down for his final stop with 15 to go. Hunsinger is still your leader. Ethan Thompson, I believe, is going to re-inherit the lead now that Hunsinger has pulled it down pit road. And we think this 98 is good on fuel. So that strategy that the 28 may have of trying to leave it out late may not work, as the 98 is taking full advantage of short pitting the stints and making full use of those tires.
One thing to mention between Domer and the 98 is they have that 9-lap stint, and if you're the 46 machine, the gap is between 8 seconds. I don't think that's going to be enough time, especially if you're battling the 14 to go ahead and even battle for the lead here. What do you think, Jonathan?
I think right now the worry for Kogan and Domer is you're right now just kind of hoping for a caution, because we believe they're going to be 3 or 4 laps short on fuel. And if they come down pit road, that's going to cycle them outside the top 10. You're hoping for a caution, because everyone has been so spread out. It's also been much harder to save fuel. I'm sure the 46er Kogan would have loved to use Hoss Shield as a draft and go down the front straightaway and save fuel. Hoss Shield's damaged, not a full speed race car right now. So I think they're just kind of hanging it out until the very last drop, hoping maybe for a late yellow to shake things up.
I think so too, as we see that gap just slowly start to creep up here with 13 to go. So if you're the 014 and the 46, you're doing as much as you can, especially if you're the 014. I don't think you're saving anymore. I think you're just trying to push this car as much as you can and try to widen the gap. As a great move by the 46 to set up the pass here.
Kogan now steals second place away from Domer. I think Domer is also trying his best maybe to save fuel, as he lost a couple tenths down the straightaway. So that may be in the back of his mind that, like, I can't make it to the end. I need to save fuel, or I need to head down pit road and top off while I can. 11 laps to go. Thompson is your leader. Kogan and Domer second and third. Chris Cornett is good to go to the end on fuel. Rides in fourth. Adam Ramsey in fifth. Jacob Durbin, after getting involved in that restart crash last week, a much-needed sixth place for him. Last week's winner, James Beard, will finish seventh. He didn't take part in week one, by the way, at Daytona, so he'll have a 100% track record if things stay as it is of finishing in the top 10. The 81 also, after being the catalyst, really, for that crash, a much better week, now in ninth as Huntsinger goes around him for position. And Jordan Mander is going to continue his streak of coming from the back and moving up to the front, staying in 10th place right now with 10 laps to go. So I think Thompson is pretty safe, barring a yellow, and I will knock on all of the wood I can find. Barring a yellow, I think Ethan Thompson is pretty safe, and this is good news, I think, for his championship efforts after a bad week last week at Iowa, after coming so close at Indy, winning the pole, only finishing second to that 54. This has been a much-needed, dominant day for the 98.
And just speaking about what we spoke to him at Indy and giving him the nickname, the Machine, we talk about these Team Ignition cars finally getting the break that they deserve. In my opinion, I think that they've been the second strongest team in this series, and they have a lot of talented drivers. And I think that 98 is probably the most talented of the few, just because he's able to put his car in winning spots. That's not a shot at any of these other drivers, but he's just sort of had the race luck to prove it, and he's had the talent, and he's had the amount of runs to prove it. I mean, he's sitting at a podium finish barring anything, and I think you're going to need a lot more than wood to not jinx him with the commentary.
So there was a change for third place that you briefly saw on your screen. Cornett went around Domer. Domer, I think, is in the most massive fuel safe mode you could be in at a track like this, because he's dropping like a rock, but I think he means maybe some divine intervention to try and make it to the end on fuel. As you can see behind him, Sean Kaiser, who had a lengthy pit stop, 42 seconds in the box. So after that, the couple of run-ins that he has had, it's caused some damage to that car. Hasn't damaged the lap times, however. He just ran a 39.5. The 52 still has speed in it, but the bumps and bruises that he's gotten over the race today have cost him a top 10 finish for sure.
I think the main goal, if you're that 52 machine, a part of that ideal family, is just putting together a run. It might have not been the day that you wanted it, but I have a feeling it just comes down more to circumstantial stuff. But, you're supported by a really great series of companies and a really talented set of drivers and teams and engineers to help get that machine right. So I think he'll be good to go if he can pick up the top 15 here to Richmond.
I think you make a good point. Like, a lot of the contact wasn't anything to do with Sean throughout this race, and even looking at the point standings, he's started all three races. His best finish still 7th at Daytona. He got into the wars in Indy. He was in the wars a little bit at Iowa with some damage on that car. As you see the 19 come down pit road now. Let's get back to our leader of Thompson. 7.5 seconds in front of Dustin Kogan. Let's shout out Dustin Kogan. He made his first start last week at Iowa, finished 7th. So a solid outing for him there, and a solid outing for him here. You know, if you think about the points, remember, we do have a chase. You know, we still have a lot of races to go before we get there. The 46 could maybe sneak his way in there.
He definitely could sneak his way in there. It's still the 4th race of the season, and this is a tone setter. It is a momentum shifter. You know, you pick up a top 10, so we're right on board the 14 here, because that also had an excellent night.
He's trying to make it to the end on fuel, and he's been out there for 29 laps. The farthest we've gone is 29 laps. Blake Hauschild is also on the cusp of making it with 4 to go. I was also curious. I'm in the session as well and brought up the in-car cam as well, because I was like, how much is he lifting? How much throttle is this man using? And I believe he's going to come down, and this is going to be the splash and dash, unfortunately, for Domer. So maybe another night in the B Series outside the top 10. And just, again, goes to show you that the luck that he's had so far in this B Series. You're leading the A Series points. You're doing okay in the trucks. But the B Series yet to get a top 10 finish for that 0-1-4.
I think it just has more to do with the momentum. We see some of these drivers out in real life in the Cup Series go ahead and run down in trucks to go ahead and get that lap time. And if I'm the 14 machine, I'm happy of my run. Obviously, you would like a win. It pays to have more money in your bank account, but it also pays to have more time and experience, as that 28 seems a little bit slippery there, Jonathan.
He was also trying to get out of the way of our leader, who is now lapped Wilson. Though Wilson is, I believe, also hanging it out there, trying to make it to the end. He's got a couple more laps in the bank than his teammates. But the white flag is going to be out for Ethan Thompson. He qualified on pole. He has led the majority of the laps here tonight. It has been a really dominating performance from the 98.
Domination indeed. And this is just what we see from a top tier driver. And I think the 98 is going to be really happy, considering the talks that we had with him in Indy, as we go ahead and go through turn 4 here.
So the checkered flag is going to fly in Michigan for Team Ignition's Ethan Thompson from pole to the win. His first win of the season for the 98 machine. And what a dominating performance it was for this Toyota Supra. Coming home in second, a few seconds back, is Dustin Kogan. Second start, and he will finish second. Chris Cornett is going to cross the line in third. And Durbin and Hunsinger are battling side by side to get across the line for P5. Hunsinger, by 6 thousandths of a second, past his teammate at the end. We had a replay of that here in just a second, but this was the race for P5, and this matters a lot because these two, I believe, are going to pass Hauschild in the points once we get that tabulated at the end of the night. This was close.
Close indeed, and this was an exciting finish as we go ahead and watch the slow-mo. Just, man, door to door, that is as close as a finish you'll get for a top 5.
That could mean the difference between who is leading the points and who is not once we get that all tabulated and done. So great job to those two finishing in the end. But it's Ethan Thompson burning it down for Team Ignition. The driver from Salisbury, Maryland, dominates here at Michigan. We'll be right back with a view of the full results and talk to our top 3 drivers. You're watching the Major League Sim Racing B Open Series here on Precision Entertainment, and we'll be right back.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to virtual Michigan International Speedway for the Major League Sim Racing B Open Series. We just wrapped up 110 laps of action from Michigan tonight. Ethan Thompson coming home with the victory. We're going to get our full results in just a moment, and you're going to hear from our top 3. So Thompson coming home with the win, Dustin Kogan in second, Chris Cornett in third, Adam Ramsey down in fourth. Then the 2 Spectre Speed drivers of Brandon Hunsinger, Jacob Durbin 5th and 6th, James Beard, last week's winner down in 7th, Michael Patrick started it at the rear of the field, and same with Jordan Mander, both getting 8th and 9th, and Jared Smith rounds out the top 10.
Heading in 11th here, we got the 28 of Richard Wilson, just an up and down night for him and Bryson Roop, sitting 12th. Zach Domer, who led a few laps and obviously couldn't make it towards the end due to gas, finishes 13th. Paul Scruggs was able to knock off a top 15 finish, sitting there at 14th. Sean Kaiser in that 52 machine, a lot of banging on the doors, finishes off your top 15. Heading to 16th, we got Blake Hochschild. 17th, Corey Powell. Chris Etchpair dealing with damage the whole entire race, ends up 2 down at 18th. Dakota Cedrus at 19th, and Alex Wilkie topping off your 20th position.
And these were drivers that had a few adventures. Mike Eldridge got caught up with Steven Shannon to bring out our 3rd caution of the day. He finishes 4 laps down. Robert T. Burke finishes 7 laps down. Justin Bell, Russell Marinsack, both got caught up in a crash with each other, 23rd and 24th. Steven Shannon, I already mentioned, slammed that inside wall hard in 25th, and Gary May didn't think it was a big contact in that outside wall, but took him out of the race just on lap 6, rounds out your field of 26. So let's get a chance to talk to our top 3 finishers. We're going to start with your winner from Team Ignition in Ethan Thompson. We're going to drag him into the booth in just a moment. Hey, Ethan, it's Jonathan. You got a copy?
Hey, I got you.
All right, well, what a dominating performance from you tonight. You showed a lot of speed, a lot of consistency throughout the run. How do you sum up your day, really?
I mean, it was just extremely smooth. I mean, I felt this is one of the places where I've always felt really good, especially on the long run. Just with saving tires, that's kind of one of the things that I feel like that is like my better skill set on iRacing. So coming to a place like this that I'm really comfortable with and throwing that on top of it, and just the fact that we finally got a long green flag run, thank goodness, definitely played into my my favor.
And talk about that long run pace and really preparing for it, because again, you mentioned this is a track that does take a little bit on the tires. You kind of need to build up that long run pace in order to get it good with it. What have you been doing to prepare for this week, and how has that paid off? Obviously, with the win.
I mean, I can't say that I actually did too much to prepare. I'm kind of one of the ones where I'll do some practice, but like if I try to do too much, then it just ends up doing. I keep trying to find little bits, and then it doesn't really end up helping me that much. But I mean, the biggest thing, I mean, it's just a matter of not driving it too hard. I mean, 20 laps here can be a lot on that right front tire. So just backing up your corners just a little bit and uh, not light switching it on your throttle on the exit. I mean, it really makes a big difference on that long run.
All right, and before we let you go, is there anyone you would like to thank?
I mean, I'll thank all my teammates at Team Ignition. I mean, we work together a lot trying to um, get the right setup that we want to use for the week. Appreciate them, appreciate the league, appreciate you guys broadcasting, all my buddies that are watching. Shout out to them, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
All right, well, congrats on the win, Ethan, and we'll see you next time out at Richmond.
All right, thanks. We'll see you guys.
That was your winner, Ethan Thompson. Cody Banta is going to be standing along with our second place finisher of Dustin Kogan. We're going to drag him into the booth in just one moment.
Dustin, it's Cody. Do you have a copy?
Yes, sir.
Great run from you. You know, you started all the way at P11 tonight. You know, just talk about the last 2 weeks for you.
Well, the last week, man, that was my first time racing. I don't really run with the lighter fuel load like this, so I ended up seventh, but I messed up pitting. I think I stayed out too long on a set of tires, and we went green. So I salvaged the seventh there. The car's just too tight, so team, man, we did some adjustments to it, made it where I can actually drive it, get a little freer, where I can go through the corners and not get that aero push so bad. Shout out to Corey Powell for that, man. He helped us out a lot getting this thing where we can actually get through the pack and get up front and not kill my right front. Because I'll be honest with you, I didn't much have one when I left last weekend at Iowa.
Yeah, and just Iowa definitely degrades the tires there, and you know, just talk about what this means for the Ideal family, and certainly that 46 machine of Ideal Pest.
Oh man, this is great for them. Get them back up here, on the top of the podium. I'd like to have one more, but it just didn't work out. I tried to pit with Ethan, tried to run him down. Once I figured I wasn't, I just kind of managed that. Shout out to all them, man, at Ideal Pest Management and Ideal K9 Training, Carolina Wheel Repair, Bird Wraps, Zach Martz, and Caddy Scratch Designs. All the sponsors who help us get us where we need to be and get us up front, and hopefully we can keep staying up there.
Well, hopefully we can definitely see you in victory lane. It's been an honor talking with you, Dustin.
Yep, thank you very much, man. Yep, y'all have a good one.
You as well.
And now we're going to bring in our third place finisher, Chris Cornett, in the 83. Chris, Killswitch Motorsports' first top three of the season. You guys have been making strides. Both of you had your best result last week, and now this is your best result of the season in third. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I know we've had a couple of rough starts, especially starting in Indy. But coming home P3, it's kind of like a win for me.
And we saw you had a little bit of a brief adventure down the back straightaway with Sean Kaiser after you two came together. Like, talk us through that save and that moment where you could have been into the inside wall.
Yeah, I thought that's where I was going, to be honest with you. I don't know. I was sitting here like, did I come up? Did he come down? And crew chief said, nah, he got loose and just come down as I was exiting up. So, but yeah, I was working that wheel trying to stay off the inside wall or else my day was done. But that was a heck of a recovery trying to, get back up there. So,
And again, you and Jordan both had great results last week, both in the top 10 this week. What are you looking forward to for the rest of the season as you two try and make a push towards the chase?
well, I feel like we're getting better. I started to have my debut at Indy, qualified pretty well, and was running pretty well until that lap car mishap. And then last week at Iowa, I qualified pole, did pretty good. Did a little bit extra saving there, so but come home P6 and then now P3rd. I feel like I'm going in the right direction each week. So hopefully next week and week on that, just I got the qualifying down. Just need to get the strategy right on pit stops and when to take tires, when to not. Um, so Alex Murray did a great job, crew chief, in telling us, to help gain that back after that last caution pit stop because me and Jordan didn't take tires. So that kind of we tried to make it as long, hoping for another caution, but it never did come out, and we went green to the end. So great calls by him to get us back to where we probably should have been in the first place without taking those tires there on that last caution pit stop.
All right. Well, congrats on the P3, and we will see you next time out at Richmond.
Appreciate it.
That was Chris Cornett from Kill Switch Motorsports, your third place finisher here tonight from Virtual Michigan. Again, we're going to be back with this series in 1 week's time at a much smaller track, very similar shapes. We're going to the Commonwealth of Virginia and Richmond Raceway. That's where the real-life NASCARs and trucks are currently running. A much narrower track than Iowa, Cody. It's going to present a whole new challenge, I think, for these drivers than the other tracks we've already seen so far.
Yeah, that's just the uniqueness of Richmond. You may see a 1 to 2 lane groove track, but it's such a beautiful track to be there in person. Just watch the races last year, but it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers handle Richmond. It's going to be something that they've never dealt with, especially being under the lights.
Our producer interested bias. I've also been to Richmond a couple times, and I saw 2 years ago the bumper throw that occurred in turn 2. So, by the way, upcoming on your Precision Entertainment Sports Network, PSS Cup Series Saturday night from Texas, and the Major League Sim Racing A Open going to be at Iowa on Sunday night. The trucks are going to be in Texas next Tuesday, and the Moonshiners are back on Wednesday with their race at Richmond. If you want your race broadcasted by Percentage Entertainment, you can go ahead and reach out to that email that you see on your screen. So for myself, for our host of our van of Cody Banta, I've been told I'm supposed to make fun of you, but I'm not going to make fun of you. Our producer can do that in our ears and not over the air. You're going into Richmond. Next week is going to be really fascinating to watch these guys, especially now with the points so much tighter.
Yeah. And, just for reference, Blake Hochschild was able to still get a top 15, but it's anyone's game within the top 15. That's how narrow those points are, especially without stages. So it's going to be pervious and extremely important for some of these drivers to maybe get some extra lap time. And especially, I think something that we haven't really talked about is how narrow pit entry is heading into turn 3. So those drivers are going to have to be on their pins and needles to go ahead and race properly.
So that's going to wrap us up from virtual Brooklyn, Michigan. For myself, for Cody Banta, for Bradley Cooper, producing behind the scenes, we're going to say so long and good night. We'll see you back in a week's time at virtual Richmond International Raceway.